Welcome to the Reimagine podcast. Each week, give yourself 30 minutes and meet the people working hard to create the future of insurance today.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of the Reimagine podcast. Again, a special episode focused on TalentBridge23 and, telling the story of developing story of the startups, the students, and the corporate leaders supporting the effort. So, Laura, do you want to set the episode up and do the introductions?
Absolutely. And as Paul mentioned, we are on episode 3 of this special edition. And it's been interesting as we sit back and we have conversations with those involved. We're still at the forefront of the program. So as we dive deeper and time goes on, it'll be interesting to hear the evolution. But we're excited today to welcome to the microphone, we have Ruoqi Song, University Perspective. So that will be very excited. And she's partnered with Shri. And Shri's been on the podcast quite a bit. We are, we're basically family at this point, innovation family. And we love to hear the stories of those who are growing alongside of us and watching the successes out into the field. So Shri is going to be joining us and speaking on behalf of Charlie AI. And we have Dominic Lupino, CGI. So fun fact, Dominic and I essentially grew up in the same town. So you never know where these things are going to come into play and where these threads are going to cross. So Dominic, thanks so much for joining us today. Let's jump in here. Shri, let's start with you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself for those who haven't listened to the podcast previously. Talk to us about Charlie AI and talk to us a little bit about your Hartford innovation journey thus far.
Oh, sure. Thank you for the opportunity again. I'm Shri Ramaswamy, founder and CEO of Charlie.ai. I've been in the data analytics, advanced analytics space for about 20 plus years now, 15 of that in the insurance and prior to that in the banking areas. My passion with Charlie.ai is all about the unstructured data that exists in the world of insurance, which is plenty. And that's kind of what we bring into Charlie.ai to extract, to interpret, and to bring that institutional knowledge that is being lost today with so many people retiring, and bring that institutional knowledge into the artificial intelligence, and the machine learning and the natural language processing within Charlie.ai. And we do this because we are all about providing the immediate set of claims that we want the insurance companies to start looking at to be able to close them sooner and also to mitigate them. And what we do is we predict litigation and we predict attorney involvement and severity on the claims. That's what Charlie.ai does. With my journey with you guys was pre-COVID. It almost seems like a different era. And it probably is. We are talking about post-COVID, pre-COVID times now. And it started with, you guys forming the Innovation Lab. And it was a fantastic journey for startups like myself. It gave us a platform to be introduced to a large set of people, the insurance people in the world of Hartford. So my journey has been fantastic since then with you guys. We had a little bit of break during the COVID time. I think you did a wonderful job by keeping this program going even during those times. So thank you very much. And I'm sure all startups feel like me in this journey with you.
Oh, we appreciate that. Thank you. And diving into the institutional knowledge, Dominic, please tell us a bit about yourself and your role at a CGI.
Sure. Thank you. So CGI is a global consulting firm providing solutions, both business and technical, to our clients. In Hartford, we primarily focus, to a heavy extent on the insurance industry for obvious reasons, being the insurance capital of the world. I'm vice president of consulting, which means my role is to help solve our clients' most complex business problems. And I do that through, business solutions, technical solutions, things like AI, things like, new software, as well as process improvement and org design. So that's primarily what I focus on.
Great. Thank you so much. And Ruoqi, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what got you interested in applying for and becoming a part of the Insurtech Fellows Program in TalentBridge23.
Hi, my name is Ruoqi Song. I'm a second-year graduate student at UConn, major in applied financial mathematics, concentrated in actual science. Because I think it is an incredible opportunity to increase the understanding of Insurtech startups, learn how to apply theoretical and practical skills using real-world examples, and interact with industry leaders. I think that's the main reason I applied to the Insurtech Fellows Program. And in fact, I learned about this Insurtech concept last year. It's really an interesting concept. I also think that the combination of insurance and technology is the main development trend in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. So as we've had these conversations within the TalentBridge set of podcasts and then expanding into the larger Reimagine podcast series, there's a lot of trends that overlap, and there's verbiage that we hear a lot of. And it's always interesting for me to gather different perspectives. So Shri, when you were speaking about what Charlie AI does and what you do, AI came up a lot. And AI, it's been in conversation for years, but especially in the last few weeks. Talk to us a bit about how you've seen AI change the landscape, and what do you think these conversations are going to sound like in the near term? Do you think people are going to become more open to the uses, or do you think that it's going to still be an interesting journey in trying to get maybe systems that are a little old to open up and welcome AI into the mix?
No, I think it's been a very positive change. I think it went from when it started about 6 to 8 years ago. It was, it's going to take away my job, and it started there. And then today we see people more open, and we also see people recognize that AI as such is just a very broad term of anything that can be automated by a machine, but it has to be programmed, and it has several technologies underneath AI. A very common one that we're all seeing now, in the news is the chat GPT. It's the GPT is one of the AI techniques. Very similar to that is the natural language processing and machine learning. These are all various techniques within artificial intelligence. And I think that understanding has come to the industry, and also leveraging these different technologies, what can be done to improve very small, process efficiency use cases. I think that's where the industry is moving. And also, very quick to kind of implement the machine learning was the fraud in the fraud space. And now we are seeing more in the litigation space, and also, on the distribution side, on the underwriting side, and on the customer satisfaction side to retain customers. So there are several uses and applications, and people have become more comfortable that this is a tool for augmenting what they're doing and improving the process efficiencies, reducing the costs associated with delivering the insurance.
Yeah, it's sure, Chat GPT is amazing. When I can get on the chat, because it's being used so often. I've asked questions pretty specific to our industry. Annuities, how good is it? An answer will provide. It's stunning how good it is. Now, I know enough about machine learning to know a lot of the algorithms behind machine learning applications are open source. What's so different about Chat GPT to generate these kind of results? Are there new algorithms, or is it just horsepower?
I think it's the training part. It's the training, very similar. It's a very different technology. It's something that creates a video as opposed to recognizing the differences between the video. That's where the artificial intelligence was. When it started, people started feeding it many different pictures and tell me the difference between cat and a dog. The AI would do that. And, looking at natural language processing, the text analysis, and also going much beyond text analysis into the natural language processing and machine learning. And it's machine learning and all these things where they're all supervised. You had to train the system. very similar. I think, ChatGPT has something called the generative pre-training transformer. That's the technology behind it. The idea is that, it has been trained on, I want to say, some 45 terabytes of data. They said it was like a mile long of the library of books. And that's the kind of information. I think it's about 125 million different records that it's data that it's been trained on. So there is still training happening, and that's why they've released it to everybody to understand what kind of questions are you going to ask and what is it going to prompt you with. That's the part that is different now. It's like it's able to understand your question and come back to you with the most relevant answer, as opposed to, like you look at other chat applications that we've had in the past. They were not very relevant. Excuse me. But this has become more relevant because of the training and because of the type of training that it has received.
Dominic, how's this conversation? Is there a conversation within CGI around AI, the use of AI? I'm just curious. So we're just going to keep down this path right now. And if it's not in the business quite yet, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it absolutely is. Obviously, as a service provider, as a technology provider for our clients, we're doing a lot with machine learning, a lot with AI. I mean, let's be honest. In the insurance industry, probably more than almost any other, data and information and how you use it means the difference between success and failure. And so I reflect back, my career, and that I worked for the same company as you some 15 years ago or so. And back then we were trying to figure out how to automate things like the underwriting process and the new business process using similar techniques that Shree's talking about. Back then, we just didn't really have the technology to do it. And so we had to kind of hodgepodge things together. Those business problems are still there. Companies are still trying to solve them. And technologies and approaches that AI has are being able, more than ever before, are allowing us to help solve those business problems with some technology, right? Whereas, usually there's more business solution to a business problem than technology. Now you can apply both because AI kind of bridges that gap between the two of them. So a lot of our clients are having this conversation. It's top of mind. How do we solve these problems that in the old days used to just take people horsepower, and now how can we apply things like AI to it to improve the quality and the service and the things that we do bring to our customer, but allowing us to do that faster and more targeted towards their needs. So,
yeah, Dominic, I just wonder how long it will take for our industry to plug into that particular tool. Sure, you probably know better than I do. I don't know the licensing rights. Is this open source? Is this not? But, Dominic, think about the challenge in like the life insurance or annuity business, the administration standpoint. Sri is focused on the claims, but, think of all the calls that come into a call center for policies that were sold, 20, 30 years ago. You have to have very detailed information about the policy, accurate information. How hard would it be to just dump 30 years worth of contracts, into a system and actually have either a direct online chat assisting customers or chat helping, probably more likely helping customer service reps do this? I mean, where do you start first with a technology like this?
I know the question is directed at me. Shree's probably more of an expert in terms of where you start. So there were lots of questions in there, Paul. One about our industry and insurance in general, and whether or not AI has legs and traction, and how long it will take for that to happen. I think the time is now. I think for the longest time, because of concerns over privacy and things of that nature, it was harder. But I think we're figuring that out, and we're able to do it in a safe, secure way. I mean, just 4 or 5 years ago, most insurance companies, and certainly all health insurance companies, were not really focused on cloud technology because of the dangers there. And that is totally changed now. Now it's like they totally realize the security models and the things that are in place make that a must do. Especially when you have, entrants such as like Amazon, getting in. They're obviously cloud-based and that sort of thing. So your question around how long, I think right now the traction is really speeding up exponentially, and it's happening now, and companies are going to do it now because they have to. They have to make that measurable difference to our customers. In terms of how hard is it, it's actually harder than you would think. You said 30 years. Man, I've been involved in things on the books that are 50 years old, right? I mean, especially in the life world, right? You're talking about a life, and how long do people have those policies? And some of them got those policies because their parents bought them when they were kids, when they were born, and they still have those policies. And so, the shelf life on those are 50, 60 years plus, and the systems in which they were written have very specific rules, very specific algorithms around that plan, and you can't just move the data. It's also about the intelligence around it. So oftentimes what we have seen, although recently this is changing because technology is getting much better, is you're wrapping these old systems in very smart systems like the one Shree's talking about, that the smart systems can interact with these old legacy systems in the back end, so you don't have to go through all the expense and pain of kind of unplugging those or rewriting those. You can kind of quarantine them, if you will, and access them to do things like, simple things, even like an address change. Is sometimes you have one person around just because they know that system and they're the only ones who can do an address change. Obviously, that's not a great job prospect nor cost perspective for our businesses.
So I want to shift the conversation a little bit. We talked about combining horsepower, people power, intellect, and systems together. So bridging a gap between two things in order to solve a problem. And part of the reason why we decided to name the program TalentBridge23 is because we saw a real opportunity in bridging the connection between the university, the startups, and the companies involved. And we're thankful for the partnership. So flipping to a mentorship vibe, Shree, you've been active within our ecosystem. You're active within communities where you're located as well. What brings you to the table continuously? What makes you want to show up in this way and accept the opportunity to say, yes, I want to work with interns. I want to work with people who are new to the industry. I want to, share skill sets with them. Why do you mentor in this way?
I think it would be very controversial if I said this, but I'll say this anyway. It's much easier to train the new people to think in a new way. So I think it's very important to start at the place where Rauchi is, and Rauchi is our intern, by the way. And, it's very easy to kind of, I think it's very easy to start there. That's been my passion, is to get people to think differently and also think innovatively, with their existing studies or existing education, whether it is math or actuarial science or marketing or anything, but think differently with the technologies available today, and start thinking about when you get into the industry, what are you going to do differently? I think it's that's my passion, is to be able to influence at that early stage of a kind of getting very controversial when I'm saying this, but it's important to give them new ideas at that stage. We start as early as high school, if you believe it or not. And we have summer internship programs where we bring in, high school kids that are very interested in taking their math and stats to the next level. And they want to understand what is the real life, application of what they are studying, or, whether it is something in the calculus or something, in something in the math that they're studying. It's like, okay, how do I apply all this? If I'm studying all these statistics models, how do these get applied? Where do these get applied? So getting them interested in two things. First, insurance, because it's very hard for you to get somebody to, we all know this. It's industry suffers with attracting, that kind of new talent into the workforce right now. The best way to start is to start very young and teach them that this is a very, very data rich industry and with a lot of opportunities, especially with many older workforce retiring. There's so much space for the younger workforce. But if we don't train them young, if we don't get them interested that young, they're not going to be interested when they get to college, because what kind of companies are waiting out there to grab them. So that's been my passion with training kids as young as high school.
Raji, very curious. So, where do you see yourself a year from now, and where do you see yourself working? 3 years from now.
Actually, I will graduate in this year. I think maybe I will come back China to find a job, maybe in insurance industry or other financial corporate. But I think from this experience, I can get some tech skills. It's definitely helpful to my future career. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dominic, it's interesting. We both been in the industry for a while, and it's. I tell people, I swear, it's the same movie multiple times. Just sometimes you're at the conclusion. Sometimes you're now. When I tell that to people, Shri, who've been there in the first time they've seen their movie, like I can see their eyes glaze over, and like, that guy. Oh no, he's not going to do it. Dominic, how do you balance this? Like, technology has changed, yet our business is so complicated that you need experience. A lot of experience can avoid a lot of problems down the road. Regulatory problems, people problems, technology problems, service problems. How do you strike the right balance in this business where we move things forward, but we're not going to break things along the way?
Things are going to get broken. So I guess that's, you and I and have learned from a lot of things that we've broken over the years. And it's interesting. I'm building upon what Roshi and Shri said a little bit in terms of that mentor relationship, that mentor-mentee relationship. As a person with a lot of experience, over 30 years having done this stuff, I still learn from the new perspectives of the people whom I'm mentoring. The passion that Shri has for mentoring, I share, and it's people of all experience, because, like you said, watching that movie, sometimes, I remember the first time I watched It's a Wonderful Life with my children, right? It's or even going to like a Disney World with your children. You went when you were a child, and now you're bringing them, and you're seeing that experience all over again through their eyes. And you learn something new about the movie. You learn something new about the experience. I mean, that's what the whole mentoring is, right? Is you, to some extent, get to relive the experiences, the failures, the successes that you had, and your mentee is holding up this mirror to how you solve them, and helping you learn something new from that, and do things in a new way. And they, of course, are getting something from it as well, because you and I have been on this journey. We have gone through these failures. If we mentor well, we're not telling them, right? We're helping them live it through us, so they don't have to relive our mistakes. And so I think the balance that I've always tried to strike is I never say no to a mentor-mentee relationship. Now, there's not always a fit, right? But I never say no, because I realize that it's symbiotic. Like, I get as much out of it as I give, and so I try to give as much as I can.
What's been one of the most surprising things you've received from a mentor-mentee relationship? What's one thing that you've picked up that you just really were not expecting to?
This is old. This is one of the first relationships that I really had that I realized he was my mentor. Mentor relationships can be very formal. A lot of companies try to force it, and they have structured meetings, and you get lunches and all of that. And others are a bit more casual. I tend to be a little bit more casual and spontaneous and organic. But early on in my career, a partner at Anderson, back in the day, I was 23 or so. We were doing some work, and he said, "Hey, when you bring those edits back to me, bring me your updated resume." And I'm like, "I don't have an updated resume." This is the partner, right? So I'm like, "I don't have an updated resume. Like, I love working here. Why would I have an updated resume?" And he said, "No, wrong. You should update your resume every 12 to 18 months. You should always be learning. You should always be picking up a marble. And if you look back at the last 12 or 18 months and you don't have something meaningful to put on that resume, come see me immediately. Let's talk. You need a new role. You need a new challenge. You don't necessarily have to leave the company for which you're working to pick up a marble, but you should always be picking up a marble." And it was very surprising for me to hear a very senior person tell me, keep your resume up to date, but not to look for a job. Keep your resume up to date to ensure that you're continually growing your skills, continually being able to shape your own journey and have that journey be successful and valuable to the companies for which you work. That was, like I said, 23 years old. That was 30 years ago. Every 18 months since that conversation, I have had an updated resume. And there have been times in my career that I've said, I did not pick up a marble. And I have gone and tried to get a marble, get some new knowledge.
I love that. Sri, how about yourself? I mean, what piece of advice would you give individuals looking to either mentor or be a mentee? It could go either way.
I mean, going back to what Dominic just said, I think that's exactly what my dad used to say. When I was growing up, he's like, don't worry about anything else. You always have to look at improving your value on your resume. When you work at a job, are you improving your value? Are you improving your resume? If the answer is yes, don't look at other things. Other things will fall into its place. I've always followed that. Maybe that's why I got into entrepreneurship, to begin with. And I've learned a lot from every mentee, that has worked with us, as part of Charlie. And I'll tell you two perspectives. One is, me being a mentee myself. All my mentors have been, people that I've worked with and people I looked up to. And it was very informal. And that was the best way to get some very casual, very honest advice. And it has to be that honest relationship between both mentor and mentee. And I've always kind of valued that. I think it cannot be formal. It has to be, in my mind, it has to be informal. It has to be honest. And it also has to be very thought-provoking, and it's almost like a thought leadership lesson. I'm not going to advise you exactly whether you should take this job or not, whether you should, argue about a certain salary or not, or, like complain about a certain person to the HR or not. That's not, mentor-mentee. It's like, okay, what do I do to get to the next step? And what are the skills? How do I approach this? If I'm having some trouble, how would you approach this? It's those kind of things. It's more behavioral. It's more honest. It's also more thought leadership. And that's really what I have parted also with all the mentees is keep your learning eyes open always. And you never know where you learn, what you learn from that will add value to your resume. And you're in a constant learning mode, irrespective of your title, irrespective of your age. And that's what I've always told all interns that come in, and I follow that too.
Yeah. Ruchi, how does this change across cultures? Like if I were to try to establish a mentor-mentee relationship in China, how would the behaviors change? How do I behave differently in China than here in the US, or maybe it's the same?
Because actually in China, we don't learn about some basic knowledge, or we don't know what will I do in the future in my career. So I think if we want to have a mentor in China, mentor should give us some suggestions and tell us some future pictures. What will we do in my career? We should know the specific work in my work. I think that the Chinese student what we liking. Yeah. Yep.
No, that's great. It's always interesting to hear perspectives, and it's so valuable. We were speaking earlier with Dustin Yoder from Surify and his whole thing. I like, likening it to the marble. His was he always takes a coffee meeting. So anyone who wants to meet with Dustin, inbox him on LinkedIn and just say, do you want to grab a coffee? And that's his thing, is he's never said no, because the relationships you form organically and that they're sporadic and just kind of come up, those tend to have the most or a lot of value to there. And you never know what avenues you're going to go down. So as we continue down this bridge of TalentBridge23, we look forward to future conversations where we can talk about the work and really dive into the projects, because I think what's unique about this opportunity is that the Insurtech fellows are paired with companies actively working right now and providing opportunities for these students to put their hands on work that matters, that is real. No one's washing cars or walking dogs. We're diving into data, and we're making real impact here. So we're excited to continue these conversations and to dive in. But before we let you go today, I'm going to ask everyone the same question. So, maybe I'll pick who's going to go first, and they get the least amount of time to think about it. But, Dominic, let's go with you. What is the one thing that you would have like to tell yourself 20 years ago as it relates to your career, or not? Totally your call.
No, it's a provocative question, right? And a lot of it we talked about already, and a lot of it I was very happy as a dad to hear Shri give a shout out to her dad. So hopefully he watches this and is proud as well. Because I try to impart the same type of wisdom to my children, right? But it is, I probably would have said a lot of the things that I heard, when I became in my 20s. I would wish I had started when I was in high school, which is seek out mentors, not mentors. Shri talked about it's got to be many. You should have mutual respect, right? That mentor-mentee relationship is goes both ways. It's not a single direction, and it's not about transactional type of things. It's more about the emotional intelligence and the strategy, internal and professional strategy, and how to conduct yourself. And I have learned so much from so many, and which is one of the reasons I try to impart as much as I can to others. I guess the other thing I would tell myself is something we know now as we're older, but it's okay to make mistakes. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like, it is totally okay to fail, because that failure ultimately leads to greater success. You learn more from your failure than you get hurt or you get wounded. So embrace that failure, embrace it, and embrace what you learn from it. So.
Shri, what would you tell your past self?
That's very controversial. I would tell a lot of things, but things I cannot tell over here. But definitely, one of the things I would definitely tell myself is maybe I should have worked in the insurance industry for a little longer, got into a certain position, and probably then, done all the networking and then started the company. I think that was one of the things I learned in a hard way, that the industry is built on relationships. It's you have to prove yourself, and without that, it's very hard for you to just take a technology and put it out there without that trust factor. And I think that's what I would tell myself is like, get more industry experience and get to a position where you build your network really strongly, and then look at what you can offer back, as an entrepreneur.
Ruchi, has any of those, the feedback that they just shared, has any of that been surprising to you? Or what is your hope? So if you were to look ahead 20 years and say, I heard this, I did this, what's something that you think you're going to carry through from this conversation as you move forward in your career journey?
Actually, I'm still young. I'm just 25 years old. If I talk to myself 20 years later, maybe I will say be brave, try something new, experience all the things I like, and to watch the world broad my horizons, and have all kinds of medical things, and to experience some new things like diving or skydiving, just like that.
That's great.
Laura, listening to Rochi's answer, there's probably one other piece of advice I would have given myself, and that would be to set the bar that I have for myself higher than other people are setting it for me, because I think most people, we're given goals, we're given all sorts of targets and everything else in our careers and in our lives, and we work to achieve those. If your internal bar is set higher than those goals, even if you don't hit your mark, you will always be overachieving. You will always be, outpacing what others think for you. And I think it's a really good way to grow yourself and grow, is just by setting your bar higher than everybody else.
Okay, Laura, you're not getting off the hook.
Oh, man.
What would you tell your former self?
Insurance isn't as boring as you think it is. No, I think it's a lot of what's been said here, right? I mean, being bold, I don't think I've ever really had much of an issue with that, for better or worse. I may have gotten sent to the principal's office a few times, but no, really kind of being bold, right? Identifying what it is that you like and diving in and learning more about it. And you may learn that you love it and you want to invest more there, or you may learn that it's not really a fit for you. And that's a lesson very well learned as well. So I would say, be bold, be brave. Don't be afraid to go on the coffee date and keep picking up the marbles.
Yeah. You know what I would say, Dominic, I'll just sort of do a mashup of yours, which is, it's two pieces. One is it's spectacular failures are actually better than a modicum of success, and what do I mean is doing okay, Dominic, okay, I kept my job, I did this job. I didn't get to pick up that extra marble because nobody gave me that assignment because I didn't do a spectacular job here. Okay, but it was good enough to just stay in place. Okay, is that a life? Spectacular failures, usually you've tried something bold and maybe you've failed, but it kind of gives you an opportunity to reset. And as you said, there's some bigger opportunities there in the future. So these things we say, I think the other one I just add is there are, especially for Ruchi, you kind of think, or at least I thought going into careers industry, maybe you sort of thought the same thing, is it felt like, okay, there's progression. You go from this job to this promotion. It's not linear. It's more like you're working in a room and a door appears. You have to open it and walk through it, but you've got to be aware of that door just opened for you. And, listen, Dominic, sometimes I've walked through the door, so other times it's shut. I'm like, oh my God, I just missed something.
So you're saying you won my exciting life.
Yes.
With all the spectacular failures and okay.
Yeah, but you know what? You've lived a lot of lives, right? When you've gone through that, it's painful. It's painful at the moment.
I wouldn't do anything differently.
Yeah. So this is great, Laura. What else for this show?
No, I think that's a great way to end it. Maybe we'll just call the episode Spectacular Failures. Yeah. We'll get people interested, right? No, we appreciate the time that all of you have given us today. And it's exciting to hear not only what is currently taking place and what you would have told your past selves, but how we're going to be able to bring the future into it as we go down this TalentBridge23 and hear from you again in a few months. So thank you all for being with us today and for being a part of the program. We appreciate it. We're excited about what's going to come forth. And we know that with your partnership, anything is possible. So I would say, Paul, cheers to Spectacular Failures.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen, look forward to Ruchi hearing more of your success here in the coming months. Sri, thanks. Dominic, thanks. Laura. And tune again next week for another special episode. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information about this company and other great startups at imagine.nfg.com.